Hello everyone, my name is John, I'm the Geeky Fanboy, and welcome back one more time to Doctor Who Flux slash Series 13. It's the finale, The Vanquishers, and let's not waste any more time, let's jump straight into it and beware of spoilers. Okay, so just seeing like on the internet what some of the initial reactions were like on Sundays right after the finale had aired, and then seeing what everyone thought on Monday, I got the impression that, some people liked it, but most people really didn't enjoy it all that much. And I have to admit that this somewhat surprised me because I really enjoyed the finale. Like, don't get me wrong, it wasn't like the best series finale of Doctor Who ever, but out of like all of the episodes we got in like this series, this might be my favorite. Like either this one or the Sontaran one, but like after I had finished the finale, I was like, this was really fun. I had a lot of fun watching this. I had a grin across my face the entire time. There were moments where I was surprised, there were moments where I gasped, there were moments where I laughed out loud. I just had a really, really good time watching this. But let's jump into it. What actually happens in the episode? So first of all, a major thing that runs throughout the entire episode is that the Doctor gets split up into like 3 versions of herself, and I thought that was a brilliant idea because that way you get to have the Doctor with every like single important character and every important storyline, and Jodie Whittaker really gets to flex her acting muscles. I think this might be Jodie Whittaker's best performance as the Doctor, definitely in like this series and Doctor Who Flux. I had so much fun watching her just like interacting with everyone, not just like Dan and Yaz, but also like Carvinista and Vinda and Belle, and again interacting with the Sontarans and even with the Grand Serpent. Just like Jodie Whittaker's Doctor works really, really well if she gets to interact with like a bunch of different people and she's put into these like really suspenseful, impossible situations where she has to like find a way out. And I think this is when her Doctor works the best, and you can really, really see this, I think, again in this episode. It's just so much fun seeing her like bouncing off each character and just like immediately just sort of jumping into it and trying to deal with everything that's being thrown at her, while at the same time she has to deal with, that she's split into 3, so she's not really able to focus on everything as she's supposed, and she's sort of jumping around. And I just thought that was a brilliant like concept for this episode. Arguably, this might be a bit confusing to watch since the episode does jump around a lot. It's a bit like in, was it episode 3? I think it was Once Upon a Time, where we also jump around a lot with like the different memories and flashbacks and all that. But I found this much easier to follow than the previous like jumpy episode. I saw some people being like, I had no idea what was going on in the finale, but I was like, really? I honestly didn't have that big of a problem following it. Like, I can see why it might be confusing for some people, but I honestly didn't think it was like that big of an issue. Like, they established the 3 important like timelines or whatever you want to call them pretty quickly. You know where she was at each time, given who she was with. And I didn't really feel like it was too jumpy or too quick or to anything. I was able to like follow everything quite easily, and this 3-act structure, if you want to call it that, I think works really well, because that way you have the opportunity to just be like, okay, we do a bit of that storyline, we set a bit up there, but then we jump to another storyline, we do a bit of setup there, and then we jump to the next one. And you always get to sort of jump to moments where something interesting would happen next. So there would always be something going on, I thought, in each storyline. I was like, oh yeah, okay, so that is happening now in that storyline. Oh cool, so this could now have an effect on the other storyline that's happening parallel to that. So I liked how they influenced each other, and throughout the episode you could slowly but steadily tell, oh, this is actually like sort of working together, while the Doctor is like imprisoned by the Sontarans upstairs. The other storyline where she told Belle to go and manipulate the ship is happening simultaneously downstairs. I just thought it was really, really, really clever. So yeah, I really enjoy watching the Doctor in this episode. I think Jodie Whittaker is at her absolute best in this series. I love her interaction with everyone. I love how, again, just like how she faces off against the Centaurans, like it feels like she's in command of the situation, but at the same time how she's aware that, you know, trouble is going on. I like this little moment we get between her and the serpent where she's like figuring out what kind of species he is, and she's just sort of doing her classic like sort of rambly thinking stuff, and it's like, okay, just brainstorming here, da 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 da. Oh, that one got a reaction. Okay, that one. Let's just conclude what we got from there. And I love how you could see her just like, sort of gaining the upper hand by arguing her way through the conversation. I thought that was fun to see, and I'm glad that we got at least like, you know, one like proper interaction between her and the Grand Serpent, and actually poked fun at his name. I thought that was really good, because, you know, what kind of name is a big snaky guy? I thought that was cute. And but like while you see her being like very much sort of in command, doing all her Doctor stuff in those two storylines, you see her being much more like frustrated and down to earth when we follow her in the storyline where she is with the bad guys, where, you know, she's like, the Ood needs to help me, but the bad guys are sort of like, we still have your pocket watch, and, you know, we're gonna torture you, and the universe is gonna explode. And she's much more panicky in that storyline, trying to figure out how she's supposed to get out of there, how she's supposed to stop the universe from getting exploded, how she can stop these two bad guys, how she can stop Storm and Azure. And again, I really like the interactions between, you know, the two villains and her, that you could really feel like that the two villains had some history with her at some point. Even though I would argue, maybe that's why I'm a bit more critical, is that they should have focused more on the two villains, because they only had like minor appearances in the previous two episodes, and they really like hyped them up in the first half of Flux, which is really cool. And I like these two. I like the two villains. They have cool looks, and they have like they have like this sort of menacing charisma whenever they enter the room. They're very much in command of the situation whenever they are around. And like I said, you can tell that they and the Doctor have some kind of past going on, and that they are vicious. But I wish they would have shined more here, like at the very end. We should have gotten a bit more like history maybe about the villains, or have a bit more time with them. Like, they kind of suffered from not having been too much in the episodes, like in the episode immediately before the finale. So it would have helped if there had been more stuff with them previously, so that the finale would have hit even harder. So I like the idea with the three storylines. I like the Doctor. I really like the companions in this one as well, especially Yaz. Yaz, again, is so blimmin' badass in this episode. She's like taking on this authority figure kind of stance, and she's badassing her way through the situation. Even Dan is like, you're really good at this by now, aren't you? And Yaz is just like, gotcha. And I just love that. This series, like Doctor Who Flux, finally did like what I wanted them to do with Yaz the entire time, ever since she started becoming a companion. Because she's always been the companion with like the most potential, I thought. But like series 11, series 12 really did her sort of dirty, I would argue. And Doctor Who Flux now really gives her that development, and gives her that like recognizable status as a companion, where you can tell, okay, you know, she knows what she's doing. She's been with the Doctor so long at this point now. She can, you know, take command of the situation. She knows what she wants to do. She's handy. She's practical. She knows what she's supposed to do, even when the Doctor isn't there. Like, she can be on her own and do her own stuff, while at the same time still missing the Doctor. But even if she's missing the Doctor, it doesn't make her like less valuable as a person. And I love that you can see that you know, she is like in tears and super happy when she finally gets the Doctor back, and we have like those lovely like emotional moments, but at the same time, you know, she can still be like independent and badass on her own. And one of my absolute favorite scenes in this entire series just had to be this final conversation between Yaz and the Doctor at the very end of the episode, where you could just feel the emotions between the two of them, and it was finally addressed. You know, that the relationship between the two has been has been rocky the past couple of days or weeks or years even for Yaz in that case. And I love how it gets acknowledged and the doctor just like properly sits down with her and is like, I know I behaved like an absolute twat and I'm sorry, I should have let you in. You have the right to know what's going on since, you're traveling with me and you're relying on me and you're putting yourself in danger because of me. And I just treated you like an impolite asshole. And she apologizes for that. And Yaz is like, yes, you're right, you should have let me in. But thank you for apologizing. And just the way it was framed, it was acted, was written, was absolutely wonderful and gorgeous and was brilliantly acted, and you could just really feel like how close these two have become now. And I can't be the only one who thought that the framing of the scene was kind of like, is something romantic about to happen? Because it kind of felt like it, like, I don't know, it felt like in those romance movies when they, have a heart-to-heart, the two romantic interests have a heart-to-heart and they are about to kiss at the end of a conversation, but then someone just like blocks the conversation, which was Dan in this case. It felt exactly like that. And I don't know if that was on purpose, if they were just like poking fun at it, or if they are maybe going for, Yaz has kind of a thing for the Doctor, which I would definitely support. I could totally see that, because I think you could kind of read that in Yaz's character. I know that some people on the internet like have been shipping her and the Doctor. That would be like a popular thing, but I don't know. I can't be the only one who at the end of the conversation thought, are they, what, okay, where's this going? But nevertheless, I thought that was a very sweet scene. Again, Dan is just sort of like along for the ride, and at the end he gets like properly invited to travel like in the TARDIS. I've been saying throughout all of these reviews, I like Dan. I like how sort of adorable and wholesome he is, how he's just sort of low-key just reacting to everything that's been going on. He's just kind of running with it and is sort of like Yaz's companion when the Doctor isn't around. I admit I would have wished for more, active input from Dan throughout the series, like especially in the finale, maybe where he like really sort of maybe gets a moment where he takes the lead and does his own thing and really shows, why he's here. But I'm hoping that we get to maybe see some of that in the upcoming specials. They really like gets to, he still needs those moments where he like really comes into his own as a companion. That's what I'm still kind of missing from him. But overall, I like him as a companion. I think he could be a really good addition to the TARDIS team, and I hope that he's gonna stay around for a while, maybe even until like a new Doctor comes along, so that he maybe like really gets to like explore his whole potential as a companion, because I think he's got some good stuff, and I like his chemistry with Yaz, and even his chemistry with kind of Vista throughout the series was fun to watch. And I think he has a lot of potential, and I was sad for him when he was when Di didn't want to go out with him, which is totally understandable that she would decline his offer at this point. Totally understandable. But I was kind of hoping that the two would get together by the end of the series, but alas, didn't happen. So yeah, Dan, good. I wish we had gotten more input from him, but maybe we get some of that in the upcoming specials. Maybe shortly about Di, since she reappears in these episodes. I have to admit, I don't quite understand what she was doing in this. Like this whole thing with like the passenger and the kidnapped people inside of him and Di being there. I didn't quite understand what was going on there. I was also kind of wondering, why is this even here? Is Diane important? If so, why? I mean, she says something along the lines of not worth killing or something like that. But I didn't really get like that whole bit. I also mentioned that in previous reviews that I was kind of upset how they didn't include, Di going missing or possibly been killed, how they didn't include that into like Dan's character development, because, he has a crush on her and he sees her being presumably maybe even killed, and he's just like, no! And then the next episode, he's completely forgotten about her, and in this episode, he's like, oh, nice to have you back, and they hug, and then he tries to, like, invite her for a date, and she says no. But I wish we could have seen Dan, like, thinking about Di, so that we were reminded of the fact that, you know, these two have a connection, or, you know, that Di was still around, maybe. So that was kind of a missed opportunity, and maybe we didn't even need, like, this whole going inside the passenger thingy. Maybe they could have resolved that whole thing a bit differently. Though I have to admit, it was kind of clever at the end to use, like, the passenger thingy to like trap the rest of the flux inside of it, since it has, like, infinite space inside of it. I thought that was clever, but, you know, that whole thing with Di and passenger thingy, that I know just that just felt a bit weird. Speaking of characters where I'm wondering why the hell were they even in this, let's talk about Belle and Vinda. They did good stuff in this final episode. Like, all of the stuff they did in the final episode was good and helped me to understand why they are here. Like, they did some really helpful stuff in this episode, and I love seeing them hanging around with the gang, you know, taking orders from the Doctor, and Belle helping out, and, you know, even though I didn't really understand why I was there or how it helped, like, Vinda interacting with Diane was fun to watch. It's just that, you know, it took until this episode for these characters to, like, really come into their own and being useful to the story. And I just wish that all of the other stuff we had got beforehand, with, like, the whole Vinda looking for Belle, Belle looking for Vinda, Belle interacting with Cornelius, or what the hell was going on there, that just all of that stuff would have made more sense story-wise. Just, I mean, if you watch my other reviews, you know that I said every time, why the hell is this here? You could cut out this whole them looking for each other stuff, and the story would not change. Like, they have their usefulness in this episode with helping, you know, fight the Sontarans and everything, but everything else they do wasn't really necessary. You know, yeah, sure, it's cute when, you know, they are finally reunited, you're thinking, oh yeah, nice, the long lost couple's finally back together again, woo! But you're wondering, like, how is this relevant to what I've been watching this entire time? Because it really wasn't. So I understand why Chibnall maybe wanted these characters to be there, and they have great potential, especially Belle. I was really into Belle by the end of this, but I wish they would have found another way to include them in the storyline where I don't have to wonder this entire time, why am I watching this and why is this even here? But a companion who I really liked, and the secondary character I really liked, Jericho, Claire, love them, and, you know, at least one of these secondary characters had to die. We all knew it probably. And it was Jericho, and you know what, I was really upset about that, because Jericho was a great secondary character. I was so glad he stuck around after the Angel episode, because he was a fun addition to the TARDIS crew. I was glad he stuck around, and he had a really good, like, final scene where he defended Claire, and then like faced off against the Sontaran, and had even, like, a cool one-liner before getting killed by the Flux. It was sad, it was impactful, and it was a good send-off to, like, a really, really fun secondary character. I'm glad that Claire made it. I mean, she sort of had to make it out, since we know that she sort of needs to go back to, you know, 21st century and the whole Angel stuff, and, you know, I'm glad she stuck around. I know I've seen some people say, like, you know, why was Claire even here? She had no point in the story. I'm like, did you miss the whole bit where her mind was used by the Sontarans in order to find out when the Flux would hit? That was, like, a whole big plot point in this episode, and that's why they needed Claire, because she has the psychic powers. That's why she was here. She was kind of important to the Sontaran plan with the whole shield and Flux and Daleks and Cybermen thing. That's why she was here. That's why she did that. So, and I mean, it's not like Claire got that much, like, screen time in this episode. Like, she was here for the psychic stuff. She did it. she was saved by Jericho, and then she gets brought back to the 21st century. And that's it. And I think that was okay. I liked her. The actress did a good job. And I think Claire was a nice momentary addition to the TARDIS team. Okay, let's talk a bit about the whole like ending and everything with the flux and time and all of that nonsense that's been going on. So the Sontarans have like this big plan with the fluxes coming in, and they want to use the Daleks and the Cyberman as shield because the flux consists of antimatter, and matter can stop antimatter. Matter. So much matter. So, but yeah, that's basically the plan. And they we get like a cameo from the Daleks and the Cybermen, and they are being just like eaten by the flux. I know that some people have said, but are they all dead now? But we see Daleks coming up in the special. I'm like, really? This is not the first time that like presumably all of the Daleks have died and then they miraculously return. Would not be the first time that has happened. So come on. Is that really what we're complaining about? Like, so that's what's happening, but the Doctor, of course, manages to mess up the plan and instead uses the Sontaran fleet as well to stop the flux from destroying the rest of the universe. And I thought that was a really cool plan. The only problem I had with that is I wish we had gotten just like at least a line of acknowledgement that a bunch of Cybermen, Sontarans and Daleks just died. I know the Doctor doesn't like them very much. I know they are her like arch enemies. But you know, at least a line of acknowledgement would have maybe been nice. Maybe that's what we're getting in like the special when the Dalek comes back and she's like, but I thought that the flux destroyed all of you, blah, 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 blah. Maybe we get that. There is, in general, a bit of a problem in regards to acknowledgement of important stuff that happens. I'm not too bothered about it, but you know, like a lot of like almost entire species like die in this. It's like with Carnivista, all of the Lopari, and you would think that has maybe more of an impact or more acknowledgement of that would be in the episode, but that doesn't really happen. So I kind of miss that, but you know, it's not too bad. But you know, it's kind of the thing you watch as you kind of recognize as a viewer, and you're like, that just happens. Anyone going to talk about that? No? Okay. So, I in general, I like how they are able to stop the flux from destroying the rest of the universe, and then they trap the rest of it like inside the passenger. I thought it was really clever. I just like how the whole plan comes together with like the different storylines and the several Doctors coming together. I just thought that was really, really cool. And then we jump back to Doctor talking to, you know, Storm and Azure, still sort of mocking her with the pocket watch, and we get this cool imagery of, you know, the weird house and like black and white where some of her memories are still stored, and they sort of trying to bait her, but the Doctor is like, no, stop doing that. Then at the very end, you know, after they've monologued about we're gonna trap you in an infinite time where you have to watch the destruction of the universe over and over and over again, and then they take her back to the planet called Time or whatever. No, was it the planet called Time? I don't know. They take it back to the planet from the previous episode where they call Time. And Time apparently just takes on like different forms, because they appear as one of the villains, and the Doctor's even like, wow, ego much. Which I kind of thought was fun. And the whole point of, you know, the flux and the destruction of the universe was to like help set free this Time character, to like get him out into existence, into the world, to free him. But that didn't really happen since the bad guys failed. The flux is gone, and Time is like, and they just Voldemort their way out of existence because they failed. And then, which I thought was cool, then time they change their appearance and they look like sort of like a dark version of the Doctor with a dark coat, which again is a really cool coat. I like the color reverse of that black coat. It looks really cool. And they interact, and we get like sort of ominous hints about the Doctor, or like this incarnation of the Doctor not sticking around for much longer anymore. And like all of those final minutes like really reminded me of the end of David Tennant's era as the Doctor, when we had Journey's End, and when the 10th Doctor got told by the Ood that his song is ending. I felt oddly reminded of that, because, you know, we have a bunch of companions in the TARDIS with so many people like saving the universe and working together, and then at the end the Doctor like faces sort of like an odd and eerie other character who is telling them, you know, your time is almost up. And then that leads into the specials we're getting which at the very end we're gonna get Jodie Whittaker's regeneration. So I felt reminded of like Journey's End, what we got with the 10th Doctor, in a good way though. It felt like strangely eerie, like they were really hinting at you know, it's just this sort of heavy feeling that you get every time when you realize the time for this incarnation of the Doctor is about to end very soon. It's always this kind of heavy feeling. So I like what we got then, and at the very end we see a Doctor in the TARDIS, and she has the pocket watch with all her memories in it, and she decides to store it away for now inside the TARDIS. And I know that a lot of people are upset about that, because they were like, wasn't that like sort of the whole point of the story, that she wanted to find out who she was, and the pocket watch contained all of her previous memories, and now she's just throwing it away. First off, she's not throwing it away. That stuff is not the story. It's just like she stored it away, and she's like, I don't want to know about this for now. Only give it to me when I'm really asking for it. So that stuff is still there, which sort of leaves it in like a vacuum where, you know, I mean, I don't know if Chibnall has this plan for the specials, but, you know, it sort of leaves this in a vacuum where it's like, this is there in case any writer ever wants to use this, but you don't have to. So you're still kind of left in that limbo where you're like, you know, we kind of know some stuff about the Doctor's past, but not really. Also, I find it hilarious how so many people have complained about, you know, the Timeless Child is stupid and we don't need to know everything about the Doctor's past, and it demystifies the Doctor and blah blah blah, how stupid that is, and we know too much about her. But at the same time, people are now complaining that we don't get the memories from the pocket watch, which would reveal so much about her past. Like, what is it? What do you want, people? Too much? Not enough? What is it? Because we're kind of like at this point where this is in a perfect vacuum, where they can be like, there is the potential to know more about this, but we don't need to know about it right now. And maybe we don't ever know about it, which honestly is fine by me. Yes, I know I said in the previous review, I kind of really want to know what's in the pocket watch, but along with Doctor, you kind of go through a zone where, like, you know, it would be nice to kind of maybe know about this, since it seems very important, but at the same time, you're like, you know, I'm also fine not knowing about this, because I like this mystery about the Doctor's past, that maybe we don't need to know everything about her past and what her past memories are. And I would also assume this is where the Doctor is right now, that she, at the beginning of the series, is like, I mean, this is right after this whole Timeless Child stuff has been revealed to her. Of course, for the first couple of episodes, she would be like, oh, I really want to know what's going on. I've been having an identity crisis. I really want to know what's going on. And then she finally meets Tech-Tune, which turns out is an absolute twat. It's like, I'm the villain now, and I helped create the Flux and gonna destroy the universe, but you have to join me if you want to get your memories back. And of course the Doctor is like, no, that's not happening. Like, sure, I maybe want to know who I am, but that's not worth it. Like, seeing all of the universe destroyed or joining any bad guys, that's not worth it. And at the end, she's at that point where she has the opportunity, but, you know, the bad guys died for that, Tech-Tune died for it, and it feels kind of, you know, she wasn't supposed to get this pocket watch at this point, maybe, at least not in the way she received the pocket watch, and she's like all of the bad guys in this series are people, or like not even all the bad guys, also some of the good guys like Carvanista have been people who interacted with her in a previous lifetime. They're all people and interactions and relationships that she doesn't remember, and they have seemingly caused so much chaos and so much harm. And I would kind of understand why you maybe don't want to know what you've done to them, that they hate you so much, or why they are now not your companion anymore, like with Carbonista, for example. So I can kind of understand why the Doctor at the end of the episode is at that point where she's like, this is an opportunity to learn, but I'm maybe not ready yet, or I'm not comfortable yet knowing about this, but I might want to know about this at a later point in time, which maybe also sort of reflects the opinion, or some of the opinions of the viewer, I would argue. That's certainly what I was thinking. And I went into this expecting that I really want to see the pocket watch open and see what all of the past memories were. But at the end of the episode, when she like just tucks it away, I was like, this is fine. I don't need to know right now. And if the Doctor decides to do it, she'll do it on her own accord. But for now, I'm good with this. So all in all, I had a good time with this finale. Yeah, sure, maybe it was a bit confusing to follow at times. Yes, there were characters or character moments or storylines, not just in this episode, but in the previous episodes, where I thought, why is this here? What are you setting up? Like, for example, all the Vinder Bell stuff. Don't really need that. The Grand Serpent, who I haven't even really talked about in this review, cool villain. I like the actor, and his charisma is really good. But I wish we would have gotten maybe a bit more background info on him, why he's here and why he's relevant. So yeah, there is some stuff that was set up, that was introduced, where I was like, okay, I don't really understand what you're doing with this. Why is this here? We don't get 100% payoff for everything. But you know what? At the end of the day, I watched this episode and had a really good time. I was just enjoying myself. I was along for the ride. I was having fun with the Doctor, going on adventures, and I like the idea of, multiple Doctors being there at the same time. I enjoy watching Jodie Whittaker just having fun with this character. I like watching Yaz being an absolute companion badass. I like the Sontarans doing Sontaran war stuff. I like villains just being villainous, even though there may not be a 100% logical explanation behind their behavior. But if it's entertaining, it's entertaining. I don't always need 100% explanation for literally everything that's going on. Sometimes I also just don't ask, because I'm like, I just don't feel like asking, or I feel like I don't need to ask in order to enjoy this. I don't know, it's just been kind of frustrating to go on the internet, and going on the internet and read comments is always a bad idea, as you know, but sort of seeing how really just negative all of this has been. Not everything, but just the general vibe you always get from the internet when you read comments is that everything's shit, and that Doctor Who's been ruined, this was the worst thing ever. If you go and look at ratings for this episode, it's one of the people don't like this, and I'm really, this is the worst thing that Doctor Who's ever done. Really, this is a worse episode than Fear Her, Love and Monsters, Hellbent, The Idiot's Lantern. It's honestly, tell me, it's worse than some of those episodes? Really? This finale is worse than some of those episodes. Because that's ridiculous. Because that is just not true, I would argue. And sure, you can disagree with me. You can disagree with me if you have really legitimate reasons for not liking this episode, or being I just didn't feel like what they were doing worked for me. I can understand that, but I'm just kind of tired of, the general negativity that I see that's just been surrounding Doctor Who. And sure, you could come in here being oh yeah, but it's just because Chris Chibnall writing bad, and like yeah, sure, maybe you can say that, but it's just like this attitude that's kind of been bothering me for a long time, and that I just feel like a lot of people. And no, I'm generalizing here. Naturally, I'm generalizing that a lot of people are just like out to see it as a negative thing just because apparently this whole era of Doctor Who has been bad, which is just not true. Every era of Doctor Who has highs and lows, and this is really not the worst Doctor Who has been. It really isn't. And I'm just like, call me an idiot for just being easily pleased. Maybe I am, but what the heck? If I'm enjoying myself, I'm enjoying myself. So that's it. I just wanted to sort of get this out there. It was this little rant. I'm sorry, but those were just some of my thoughts I had while I was like sort of looking up online what some other people thought. And I was negatively surprised. But what the hell? I mean, it's the internet. But yeah, that's it. I don't know if I'll do like a wrap up or episode ranking because I'm not sure if that really works for like this series. If you want me to do like a wrap up discussion or like an episode ranking, I'll gladly do it. Just tell me down in the comments below if you would love to hear some more thoughts or ranking of Doctor Who Flux. But for now, this is it. Thank you so much for watching. Do tell me down in the comments below what your thoughts are on the finale or on this series as a whole. If you enjoyed it, what were some of your favorite moments, or were there some bits where you thought that just really didn't work for me? Do tell me down in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't done already, and I'll see all of you very soon. Goodbye.